Wow, the news clip is out, and could it be? Kim Jong Un is actually alive? I feel like we've been going through quite a bit of whiplash with respect to Kim's health over the past couple weeks. The first video I made talking about it, it was the day after the initial news broke, and I felt like the story was suspicious because had seemed to have originated with this, CIA-affiliated, dissident news organization based in South Korea, who didn't seem by anything that I could tell to have the greatest sources in the world, and their sources may or may not have just been Western intelligence. And then the other two places that picked up that story were NBC and CNN, who directly had U.S. intelligence sources saying, "Hey, Kim Jong Un is brain dead. He's in critical condition." And then something very fishy happened. Not too long after that, the woman from NBC deleted her tweet, and this North Korean dissident news organization first issued a correction, which should have been a retraction, saying that, actually, turns out, oops, false alarm, Kim is doing just fine. And then they deleted the story entirely and completely took it off. And so the only people who were still continuing this, this report were folks that had picked it up secondhand from these other places, from NBC and from this Daily NK website in North Korea. And so the day after this news, broke and all this had already transpired, I was, suspicious and thinking, he's probably not dead. Because, of course, North Korea is very hard to penetrate for Western intelligence. The North Koreans are, more so than any state probably in the history of the world, other than maybe Japan prior to Commodore Perry, they don't let foreigners in, and so it's very hard to get a spy in there to infiltrate anything in North Korea. The best chance you have, I guess, is trying to find some way of turning someone who's already on the inside. But it's not easy, so there's not a lot of great intel on what's going on in North Korea at any given time. And so then a few more days went by, and we started to get some more news stories, and they were more detailed. And they were talking specifically about, where Kim was and what had happened and how, when he collapsed, he was taken to a local hospital, and the local doctor, had to operate on him very quickly. They were trying to wait for better doctors to come from China, and they had to operate quickly, and they were saying how, the guy's hands were shaking so violently that he just, he ended up, messing the whole thing up, and he took too long to put the stent in, and by the time that they brought Kim back, he was brain dead. And the reason given for this, why it was such a terrible surgery, why they couldn't, put the stent in the normal time, which I guess was about 2 minutes, was that this doctor had apparently never seen such a fat man in his life, and he just didn't know how to operate on an obese man like this. He had never seen body fat, because in North Korea everyone's starving. And so at the time, I kind of read that. It was kind of funny. It almost sounded like a bit of satire that would have been written about North Korea just because it was so perfect. How this doctor was so blown away to see anyone with body fat that it completely, screwed him up, and he didn't know how to operate on him. But considering that we were getting this from multiple outlets who had sources that were not U.S. intelligence, meaning that these are, still anonymous, but other people, at least. These were specifically, I remember one that was a Chinese doctor, and that was someone who spoke to a Japanese magazine. And then there was another report from a woman who is the one of the heads of some media, state media organization in China, whose uncle works in the foreign ministry. So I would have thought, well, she's obviously got the connections to know whether this went down or not. So I would say that, if this woman is saying it, that's like the Chinese government saying that Kim Jong Un is dead. And so then it sounded like, oh, wow, he actually is dead for real. So it turns out that these rumors were true. But now today, after... actually, I should point out one more thing, one more party. The South Koreans, who try to have the greatest incentive, obviously, to know what's going on in North Korea and try to maintain the closest ties. They, from the beginning, unequivocally denied that Kim Jong Un was in any danger, that anything was wrong. They say he's perfectly healthy. He's the healthiest man, in fact, who has ever lived. He is perhaps the man in Korea who is in the least danger of dying out of anyone. And the South Koreans maintain this line up until today. So those, I guess, are what the three major, external parties are saying. The U.S. says he's brain dead. China, indirectly through this woman, seemed to be saying that Kim Jong Un was also, out for the count. He was donezo. And the South Koreans, for whatever reason, held on to the line that he was doing just fine. Well, today or yesterday, May 1st, whatever, we got this video of Kim cutting a ribbon at some factory that we are told opened yesterday, and that this is brand new footage. And this was on North Korean television. And of course, that was picked up by South Korean media, Yonhap, I think is how you say it. That's, they're kind of like the AFP, but of South Korea. It's, whenever you see news coming out of South Korea, it's normally that agency. And, it's a normal North Korean video. He's just, walking up on the stage, going a halt, a halt, a halt. And he gets the big scissors and cuts the ribbon. And you see all the crowds, cheering and wearing masks, of course. And just, and not being distant from each other. They're right on top of each other, but they are wearing masks, a lot of them that I saw. And so does this mean that Kim Jong Un is alive? Well, I mean, it could. At least the North Koreans now are no longer, playing coy and neither confirming nor denying his death. They are coming right out and trying to make it seem as though he's very much alive. But how do we have any proof that this actually occurred on May 1st? I mean, really, we kind of don't. Because in North Korea, there's not going to be any sort of independent parties who show up to these events that can confirm it. It's not like a bunch of, it's not like his press gaggle that follows him around, like Trump or one of these other Western leaders has a press gaggle that follows him around, witnessed Kim Jong Un cutting this ribbon. We're just shown this video of Kim Jong Un cutting a ribbon, and we're told that it happened yesterday. But, if this turns out to be true, it certainly would show that the South Koreans, who, like I said, have a great incentive to be right on this issue, were right all along. And that would make sense to me, that the South Koreans would know. I would think that they would probably have a better idea than the U.S. if Kim Jong Un was dead. But frankly, at this point, I'm not convinced either way. This certainly is the best evidence that's been put out so far that Kim Jong Un is alive, but it's not definitive. So that would be probably my takeaway from this. It's just we still need to wait for more information. This certainly does, start leaning me back towards the side of what my initial instinct was, that he is alive. Because for all we know, like I was saying, we have no way of knowing that this particular video is from yesterday. Well, I could say that about any video coming out of North Korea from him. So who knows? Kim Jong Un could have been dead since the day that he last talked to Trump, because that's the only time that outsiders really have seen him. So the only reason that we would have to believe that Kim Jong Un is dead, despite this video, is all those anonymous sources saying that he had some failed operation, which given what little information we had about Kim to begin with, that's just, it's just thin. So I'm not willing to say one way or the other that he's dead or that he's alive. But I think if the no-cos really want to drive this home and make the Westerners, shut up about what they've been saying about him, is that they will probably have, Kim do many public appearances here coming up, just to put this, this whole rumor to rest once and for all. The fact that it's taken them this long, though, for him to come out does tell me that there's something that's been going on. I think it's probably possible that he had some sort of operation, that maybe he wasn't on death's doorstep, but that he was, sick in the hospital and had to recover. And if that were the case, there's good reason why the North Koreans would never want to admit that and say that he's doing just fine, even if he isn't. And that's because the Kim, whoever the current Kim ruler is in North Korea, they're kind of a demigod. And so it would totally, destroy his image in the eyes of the people if, he was seen to be so weak that he had to be that he was sick in the hospital like a normal person. It's just the optics would be terrible for their propaganda. So, even if he just had a normal operation and had to, stay in the hospital for a few days, they're not going to say that publicly. And so it may be that, he had his little stay in the hospital and now he's out and doing normal things. And they'll pretend like, that nothing ever happened, that he was here the whole time. Because, I mean, it is still strange that he missed his grandfather's birthday. That's a big holiday in North Korea. That, I think, is what, sent a lot of these rumors into overdrive, was people saying, oh my God, he missed the great leader Kim Il-sung's birthday. So where the heck is the guy? So that's about all I have to say on this topic for today. If you gained anything of value out of this video, I'd appreciate you clicking that like button and sharing this video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because I do upload every day and I'd hate to have you miss one. So I'll see you folks back here tomorrow.